I wouldn't go near this stuff with a barge pole, even if I was allowed to. It's just way too volatile for my risk profile at my senior age of life. So what I want to know is this dangerous for the rest of us who aren't going to go near these certain number of stocks and a few asset classes? The rest of us who have longer term views on the broader markets and broader asset classes, does it present a danger for the rest of us and hence create some form of systemic risk?
It sure does. It sure does because it leads to a wrong allocation of capital. Now, it depends on your kind of how exactly you trade. If this incites you to be a trend follower, that you are more likely to be on the losing side. What it does do for some investors who are patient and who are willing to take the contrarian trade, that actually creates opportunities. More mispricing means that if you're willing to buy assets that are cheap today and stay away from bubbly, frothy assets that are reaching skyrocket valuations, in the long term, fundamentals are paying. And in the long run, that approach will pay. And the fact that we have more mispricing will actually make it more profitable.
Vitaly, there's got to be a day of reckoning, though, at some point. And often what we've seen in recent years, that has come on earnings season date, the date of reporting. Momentum trading has been a feature of this market, not from retail investors, but from many large investors who pushed up stocks, a whole basket of stocks, and some have gone up that shouldn't have gone up. And you see the stocks then correct as you get fundamentals reported every quarter. When some of these big names start to report, and if they don't live up to expectations, don't we get a sell-off, or does it require the army of investors then to come up with more funds to buy the stock to offset any selling pressure?
Well, if there is not going to be the army of investors, I think Elon Musk himself said in one of his interview about Tesla stock that it will be, if Tesla doesn't meet just a little bit the expectation, the stock will collapse like a souffle. I think the comparison he made, and I think that's true for many companies today and for many asset classes. So it takes a kind of new, fresh money on the market to sustain it. And last year we've seen a lot of it coming with this retail presence. And if we don't see continued supply, we can see a lot of corrections.
Vitaly, we were mentioning on the program before how some hedge funds have been tweaking their strategies, trying to run now with the retail crowd and make money on the back of some of that momentum. But we also heard from those that really at the heart of the selling, Citron's Andrew Loft, effectively saying that he'll stop publishing short seller reports. So he'd put out some research papers, and then a number of investors would pick up on that trade and obviously start to jump on board the bandwagon. How do you think the lack of transparency now we may see from the hedge fund industry may have an impact on the markets?
So generally, whenever we see lack of transparency, whenever we see shorting becoming riskier, again, we see more bubbles, and we see, so essentially the long short funds, leveraged funds become more riskier, become potentially less profitable because they would be afraid to take some of the trades. There is lots of research documenting that whenever we have restrictions on shorting, bubbles become and mispricing become much more prevalent. But also there is documented in literature, in academic literature, research showing that it also increases the potential for some of the slower moving strategies like value strategy, like contrarian type strategy, where you're continuously rebalancing against sentiments. And I think that's where there is a real opportunity for the long-term investors. And for the short-term investors, it can be actually a big danger. So essentially, there is quite a bit of zero-sum to trading in the stock market. And it's probably a wisdom that we should think of, that if you don't know who your trading is and who the SARK is going to be, who is going to provide you the premium, then very likely that it's you who are going to provide that premium.